All right. Well, we are live. As you guys can see, we did not have the countdown timer today because Joe Reams lost power about 2 minutes ago. So I hope Joe gets power back on here, because if not, then you get to listen to myself and our wonderful guest speaker here in a minute. But first, I want to kind of recap what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. We've been talking about the NAR settlement. If you're a real estate agent in this industry, you know that with the NAR settlement, there's some changes that are having to happen in the way you do business. We covered last week a lot of those. Buyer's rep agreement is one of the big things that we have been talking about here, and how if you're a real estate agent, how you're having to make some extra phone dials to those listing agents to find out how is commission paid. Is the buyer paying it? Oh, there's my friend.
Gee, should we start now?
No, well, I the funny thing is I went ahead and went live, Joe. And we have our guest speaker in the background, and I see him laughing his butt off because I'm like, I don't know how to do the countdown. I don't know how to do a lot of these things. So just letting you know.
Your engineer kind of stepped out for a second there.
I'm glad your power's back though. So I'm gonna let you jump into your intro, and we'll let you go from there, and then we'll get to coffee talk.
All right. Sounds good. Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry for the hiccup, a little technical issue, if you will. Power went out 60 seconds, 90 seconds before we went live. Had to reboot everything. We reboot the Wi-Fi, all this stuff to be able to get back online. But we are live, and happy Wednesday. This is the Mojo Show, your real estate podcast, where we talk about everything real estate. I'm your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
This week's episode, we're wrapping up our series revolving around the recent NAR settlement and how it affects you. Today, in particular, we're going to focus on what agents need to know regarding the NAR settlement. But before we get to that, Joe, I know for our coffee talk today, I wanted to talk a little bit about, of course, a year ago, I moved here. We all know that. We moved here from Michigan to the Houston area, Montgomery in particular. And, arrived with the U-Haul, 3 days of traveling with it, unloaded it. I remember when I was loading up the U-Haul, right? And my home that I sold, the people, I was supposed to give them the keys, right? As I was leaving, pulling out with the U-Haul, we still had like at least an hour or two left of loading up the U-Haul when they came. It was like noon, right? Something like that. And thankfully, bless our hearts, they waited outside until we had everything loaded up. Then I, let them in, gave them the keys, thanked them, and we hit the road. Packing is unbelievable. Now, I understand you just went through, and you're going through it right now, right?
And it has been a whirlwind of fun. This is the longest Tina and I have ever stayed in one house. It's been 9 years that we've lived in this house, and it's been wonderful 9 years. But I am finding out that I am I'm not going to say hoarder. I'm a pack rat. I will keep things even if I don't need them. I guess I do a lot of handyman work and stuff like that. And I buy tools, I buy different things. I think I have probably 5 of each tool that I don't need. So, be watching on Facebook Marketplace. But Facebook Marketplace is going to have a lot of tools for sale because I got it condensed down now that we're doing this. But, I have to give a shout out to Tina. She has worked her butt off to make this happen. And my kids. And our kids are awesome. They started school today, so that's the big joy. Is both of them got off to school today and smiles on their faces. So my son's a senior. That one is a little harder because he's not going to be at home next year. So we're kind of getting prepared for that right now.
Okay. Wow. So I know when I went through packing and everything, it was in a way, it was awesome because I got to purge a lot of stuff out. Right. I mean, really, that was kind of the best thing about the move was just purging everything out.
3 dumpsters so far. 3 20-yard dumpsters, completely full. 3 of them.
3 of them. Wow.
So yeah, and he's taking the last one. So we go to closing after the podcast.
Yeah.
We got one more load to get off the driveway, but everything got out of the house. We had the house completely cleaned yesterday. We are excited for the family that's moving in here. They're going to be next to their grandkids, which are right next door.
Wow.
So really excited for them moving in and being next to their family. So
fantastic. Good stuff.
Well, I know we have a great show today. I'm going to let you get into introducing that great guest speaker we have.
I'm super excited to have him on, to have our guest on our show today. He graduated from Texas Tech University. I'm not going to hold that against him, honestly, with a real estate finance degree, and went straight into real estate at the age of 22. So started early. So he's only been doing this a couple of years. He's sold real estate of all types, including pre-owned, new construction, REO, land, and commercial properties as well. In 1994, he went into management and is currently the COO and broker associate at Century 21 by Mike Bowman and Corp, which I understand was founded by his father, Mike Bowman, in 1971. And joined the Century 21 system in 1975. So it's been around a long time, family name, well known. Please welcome to the show, everyone, Dave Bowman.
How are you doing, gentlemen? Doing good. Thank you very much for coming on. And, you know, I love that I get to have you on here because we've known each other for about 9 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have the pleasure of knowing your dad, too, and your mom, and you know, and your wife. I've gotten to know the whole family, and I really appreciate you coming on today. But tell us, you know, other than what Joe did on his intro, tell us a little bit about yourself and, you know, personally, so our viewers know a little bit more than you just in real estate.
Well, actually, last week, my wife and I just celebrated 41 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Really
we need an applause for that. All right. There we go.
I have 3 wonderful kids, Amanda, who's actually in real estate now. And then my middle daughter, Stacy, her and her husband are in Lubbock. She is a NICU nurse. And then my youngest, Jake, works for Fidelity Investments. So very proud and very blessed for a wonderful family, and, you know, blessed to be a part of real estate. It's been a great ride.
I got to know Jake through a couple of summer internships, if you want to call them. He was working for his dad and the grandpa downstairs, Joe, when I used to have my office right upstairs. And he's a great kid, you know, very polite. Every time we'd do a cookout, he was right there helping us set up tents. So really appreciated getting to know him a little bit more, and the whole family over there. So, you know, with our show, if you're listening and things like that, we want participation. Please use the comment section on our YouTube, use it on Facebook. Dave is here to answer more questions on this NAR settlement. We have some of our topics, but we all know, viewers, we want your questions. We want your insights of things that we're talking about. So please ask those questions. Put a comment on there so that way we can share that with Dave, and I know he'll get those answers for us. But, you know, Dave, we talked before the show, and, you know, kind of diving into this. What is the NAR settlement to agents, and what type of agent is this settlement not really going to affect?
Well, the one group it's not going to impact at all is listing agents. This suit has nothing to do with listing property. It all evolves around the buyer's agent and the buyer's agent fee. And I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, helped agents in their careers doing this. If you truly want to be successful in real estate, you have to become a strong listing agent. And if you're a strong listing agent, then a lot of this stuff, it impacts you some, but it doesn't have near the impact. As a matter of fact, I heard a statistic last month, and it shocks me, but it doesn't. You know, you would think that an agent, the consumer out there would probably think, hey, an agent should be able to get a listing a week. That'd be 4 a month, right? 48 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 1.5 million realtors, you know how many agents do that on a consistent basis out of 1.5 million?
I would say that's a very low percentage to have one a week.
I mean, you think
Maybe 5%.
Yeah, 5%. I was thinking, okay, somewhere between 10 and 5%.
Yeah.
0.03%.
Wow.
I mean, that blew me away.
Wow.
I mean,
and
that's-
we've always taught in our office, if you want to have a successful career, you have to become a strong listing agent, period, the end. And
so speaking of that, what is the characteristics of a strong listing agent? If people are in this industry starting out, what are some characteristics of somebody to become a strong listing agent?
well, number one, you have to develop a skill set, and getting listings is a lot tougher than getting buyers. There are so many different avenues that you can pick up buyers. Okay. I mean, even if you look at your Zillows, Realtor.coms, all the internet leads, all those purchases, majority of those are buyer leads, period, the end. When getting a listing, you've got a certain group that you have to target, number one. Number two, when you go out and talk to them, you have to have a skill set. You have to have market knowledge. You're going to have to be able to discuss why you're pricing the home at what you're pricing it at. You're going to have a marketing plan that's effective. You're going to have to be able to communicate on a regular basis with that seller of what's going on in the marketplace and advising them where they need to be. And when you're looking at this current marketplace right now, it's become more static. We're getting more inventory out there. We're seeing that in the numbers all the time. And you have to communicate that to the seller. One of the biggest status changes, two of the biggest status changes going on right now that have increased dramatically over the last year is, number one, price reduction. I can go on the MLS, and that's usually the biggest status change. It's more than new homes on the market, homes going under contract, homes being sold. And then the other thing that really surprises me is cancels. We're seeing a tremendous amount of cancels that we haven't seen before. I mean, numbers that since I've been tracking, I haven't seen these type. And it's a lot of owners that are getting frustrated because I think they're still back in 2021, 2022, where, hey, I've got 30 offers, just pick and choose. Well, I have to have a strong skill set in order to navigate my seller.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think, unfortunately, a lot of people travel the path of least resistance. So they gravitate more to picking up buyers than picking up sellers, because with sellers, it does take a lot of work, period, the end. And you get a lot of no's, trying to find sellers. And so I think that's it. But once you master that skill set, I mean, like I said, I can take any real estate office. I don't care who it is. Their top agents, their top teams are all strong listing professionals, period, the end. And if you learn how to master that, then what do you care about buyer's commission? You don't. Matter of fact, I really do think we're probably going to see a shift. I think you're going to see listing agents, their fees probably increasing, and buyers' fees, decreasing.
So you think the listing agents are going to, go up from that 3% because of all the work that they're going to be doing and the phone calls and stuff like that?
Absolutely. If you look at the expenses that you have to put into the virtual tours, the staging, there's so many out-of-pocket expenses that a listing agent has to take. And, they've always tried to offer the buyers to attract. And I still think that holds true. That's one thing that I truly believe. I think you're going down a dangerous path if you just sit there and say, you know what, let the buyer and the buyer's agent figure that out. You don't need to pay a fee. I still think you need to attract buyer's agents. You need to be offering a fee, period.
Yeah,
I agree.
And the more the fee, the more buyers you're probably going to get, because there's one group of sellers right now that are throwing money right and left at buyer's agents. They're known as builders.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a competition with pre-owned sellers, and they need to be made aware of that. That's one of the things they need to be. And those builders, they want their product gone. They're not in it. They're not tied to it emotionally like most pre-owned owners are. You know, they've got product they've got to move, and they know the best place to attract buyers agents and their buyers is by offering, you know, incentives and bonuses on top of the regular fee.
This is the first time that that's actually been brought up in this series, Joe. What Dave just brought up was builders. We haven't talked about the builders paying, buyer reps higher percentages. And if people are going to start, not, if a seller like myself, I did pay a buyer's agent fee, but if a seller is not going to pay a buyer's agent fee, well, now if the builder in the same neighborhood or down the street is offering 4%, then that's going to take away from that seller's ability to get more foot traffic in.
Absolutely.
Well, I've always said the market truly does determine a lot of our fees, period, the end, because even in the heyday, and, here again, I started in 1986 as an agent. There was no set fee. Fees varied all types. You had flat fees. You had lower percentages. You had higher percentages. It's always been around. I think the one thing that the MLS did was because of the cooperation, your fee was always guaranteed. So whatever was published in the MLS, you were guaranteed that fee regardless. Okay.
Right.
It's a whole new ball game now. Okay. And where we go in the weeds, that's something I think we're going to figure it all out, and things will smooth out here in 6, 9, 12 months. Anytime you have change, people are going to test things. They're going to test different strategies. That's fine. But I still say in the end, the market's always going to determine how much a buyer or seller is going to offer, along with, market knowledge. There's other things too, variable, but the market does have a lot to say about, what's going to be charged. Because here again, going back to the COVID days when all of a sudden everything was just selling and prices were escalating, you were seeing several sellers that were going, I'm not going to pay as much. I've got 30 people. You had agents negotiating fees, trying to get their buyers, contracts accepted. There was a lot of that going on. That was a lot of the market causing that effect, not because of something changing. Right. And so when it becomes a buyer's market, you're going to see fees change again.
Well, I know we were talking just before the show in regards to the buyer agency fees and that, and comparing it to commercial properties, commercial sales. Right?
Yes.
And understand, Dave, that maybe you can expand on this more, that commercial agents have been dealing with this all along compared to residential.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I've really tried to tell our agents, because we have a commercial division here in our office as well. They've never had a place that guaranteed their fee, being a buyer's agent. So they've always had to do this. And so it's already been tested, tried, and true. You don't hear commercial brokers complaining about buyer's agents' fees. It's all negotiated up front. It always has been. And I think if we look at that mindset of, hey, it's just situation, I'm going to have to do a little bit more due diligence now, but it's going to be fine, and you're going to find most of the time, fees will be negotiated, no problem. Are there going to be some? Yes, there's going to be some that seller's going to dig in and say, no, I'm not paying a fee, period, at the end, or a broker, whatever. But that's always been the case. We've always had that. And I guess that's what we have. You're going to face those. Just accept that, and we'll deal with it at that time. But I'll give you a perfect example of a commercial transaction that was going on in our office, to where the seller was not offering a fee. And so what the buyer told our commercial agent is, hey, let's just roll that in. I'm not going to pay that. We'll just roll that into the price. So we know what the seller's net is, and let's make that offer.
Okay. It's almost like seller concessions in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Seller concessions. And I think that's going to be the big buzzword catchphrase that I think will cure a lot of ills. Because when you look at it, and it's always been this way, and this is the way you should always be practicing real estate. When I'm talking to the seller, I'm always telling them this, what is your net? What do you want to net, Mr. Seller? Because I can bring you 4 offers right now, and the largest gross price might not net you the most.
Right.
So we always want to focus on the seller's net.
Mm-hmm.
Buyers are the same way. Buyers are normally going to pay based on what their payment is. Okay. So as long as that gross payment fits, the gross overall price fits within their house payment, they don't care what it is. And that was proven during COVID. I mean, people were spending 10, 15, 20% over value. Why? Because their house payment, interest rates were so low, their house payment was still affordable.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here again, if we just kind of look back at history and just follow that, a lot of this stuff is going to cure itself.
Well, and that is same for our industry. The market dictates it, and right now the higher interest rates, we don't focus on interest rate. We focus on where's that payment got to be for your budget. Right. What's the high end? What's the medium? What's and then we work on those pre-approvals in that same focus for that. I like how you said in commercial, which I am starting to hear that more on residential too, is if the list price is $500,000 and they're not paying a buyer's agent fee, and that the house will appraise for a little bit more, and you want to build in that 3% and offer that higher amount, then you could get them to pay it. And I think we heard that last week too from an agent. But I think that's going to be the key, is your negotiating powers is really going to take place here as an agent, and you're going to have to do better. And I love that it's going to get some of those agents out of this industry. And same with loan originators that are just sitting there, they're taking down a paycheck and they're not doing anything to get it because the market was
order
so hot.
takers. That's all they are, order takers.
And I'm gonna give a shout out. I work with one of the agents in the Bowman office, Virginia Robinson. That's pretty new to y'all's office. She's hustling. She's great communication. Love the lady. And she yelled at me for not having her on the podcast, Joe. So we do have to get her on here. So, but Dave, you've done multiple meetings about this NAR settlement, and I remember something. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Northwest has been dealing with this already on buyer's rep agreements.
Yes,
where it's been going on. I remember you saying that in one of your meetings that this is nothing new. It's just now it's down touching our area.
It's a little bit different, but no, and exactly that because that was reported in Emmett. Northwestern MLS, which I think is Washington State, Oregon, that area up there, they jumped in ahead of, when this lawsuit was first filed and said, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and make the changes. Period. The end. They jumped in. They wound up doing an amicus brief for another lawsuit, and they were able to show that since the changes, I think it was 97 or 98% of sellers' co-op fees were 2% or more, 98%. And as far as, 3%, it was like 96%. Well, I can find that in the MLS right now, we can't find any more. It's gone. But back, when we had, you could have found those exact same numbers. It really didn't change anything. I still think it all boils down to the value I bring to the table is going to determine how much I get paid. If I don't have any value, why does the consumer need to pay you?
Right.
Period. The end. But when I bring value, when I bring my skill set, my knowledge, my negotiating skills, that has value. And it has been proven time and time again. I don't care what industry, people always pay for value. I've always told our agents, if you're not providing value, they're not going to pay you, because there's a reason some people, drive around in Bentleys and some people drive around in Kias. Okay. Some of it is affordability. I get it. But if it was always based on price, we'd always be paying we'd all be driving around in Kias, the least expensive cars. It's not always based on price. It's based on what I bring to the table and what somebody's willing to pay for that value.
Yeah.
I agree. I know we were talking before that all three of us, those of us in this industry, we are paid according to our worth. Our paychecks, no matter small or big they are, in our industry, you are paid what you are worth. And it goes against, I know that statement goes against what a lot of the media has put out there.
Right.
Realtors being these, the stigmas, these overpaid door openers, which if anyone could just spend a couple of days or a week following around a realtor in everything that they do throughout the day, the time they spend away from their family alone in putting forth the client first, right? They would see that this is not a job that you just walk into and you start banking, 20 grand a sale.
Right. No, that's exactly right. And once you start breaking it down hourly, there's some, you look at some, even though you might have got
like
paid
minimum wage,
$20,000 check, you were working for $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Because you had to put that much time in it to get it closed. That's just the way it is. But no, I agree with you so much, Joe, is that and that's where I think we really need to get stronger going forward, is explaining our value. We have to be very good communicators and explaining what we bring to the table. I'm not just opening up the door, writing a contract, and then you're on your own merry way. I mean, we've got to make sure, there's appraisal issues we're going to have to deal with, making sure that everything's done on time with the lender, survey, title it. There's so many different factors that we have to be prepared for and make sure that we're connected with the right people to get that stuff done so we can get them to the closing table.
So sellers not damaging the property when they're moving out.
Oh,
that's it.
Yeah, Joe.
But even being able to negotiate inspections and, hey, it's being able to explain what's important, what's not, what you need to look for, those type of things. There's just so many different parts of the contract that we have to watch those guidelines. And hey, if it was just opening up the door, writing a contract, then yeah, our fees should be a lot less. Here again, that's when you bring that value and when you're able to explain, and that's where it's really going to be important going forward with buyers, is explaining our value and providing it,
Yeah. Well, I think another thing that could set some buyers agents apart when they're doing their buyer rep agreement is start networking more with those stronger listing agents, like you were talking about in the beginning. Start knowing who these listing agents are, and listing agents, the really good ones, they already know who the buyers agents that they reach out to and saying, hey, this is going to be coming soon, or hey, we're putting this one on the market in the market we're in today, because they don't want it to set either. And I think that's where, if you're setting yourself apart, you have a network of buyers agents if you're a listing agent. And if you're a buyer's agent, you have a network of listing agents that you're like, hey, I got a buyer that's looking for this type of home in this area. What do you have coming? What do you have out there? That's worth paying for. And having somebody do that work for you, it's well worth it.
Well, we need to get back to that. And that was one of the things, here again, I guess back in the old days when I was selling real estate, you had to drive.
I'm saying the 90s is old.
You had to drive. You had to drive to that office to deliver the contract and meet the listing agent. There was a lot more, networking together. Exactly what you said, Joe, and I think that's spot on. Getting back into that, I really see today, because we can do so much stuff with DocuSign, and everything. we don't ever have to meet them. So there's more combativeness, you know, and is that really what's best for our customers and clients, is to be combative with the other agent?
No.
Because I've always said, your attitude will determine a lot the way your client's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You're upset with the other agent, guess what? Your client's going to be upset, whether they're a buyer or seller. They're going to follow your lead. And so that's what's best, is trying to find a way to bust up the deal because of your ego? No, you make sure you ask good questions. Buyers and sellers will always make decisions based on their wants and needs. We just have to ask those questions, find out what their wants and needs are, and then provide the answers. And they always make good decisions. And
Dave, I got a question for you in lieu of this, what we're talking about. And Joe brought up a great point as far as listing agents, getting to know better, you know, buyer agents and back and forth. Being that you do a lot of the training at your agency, and that question I have is, like, this Friday, I'm helping out an agent doing an agent open house.
mm-hmm.
Do you see that as being a valuable tool in this, in listing agents and buying agents, being able to get to know and network more? Do you see that as a valuable tool for?
Oh, absolutely. Doing agent open houses, absolutely. Number one, to get to know the other agents. Number two, you're allowing them to come in to introduce your listing, you know, I would always be strategic in it and make sure that I had those agents that were most active in selling properties in that area. I'd want them to have special invitations, you know, make
Mm-hmm.
sure they get in there, because they do know the market. Maybe I missed the mark on my CMA. Maybe we're a little bit overpriced, and they can come in and say, you know what, hey, this, or, you know, they know condition stuff and say, you might want to have your seller change this. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that, yeah, it should be twofold. It should be number one, so I can go out there, you know, and let those agents know about it. And here again, make sure those top buyers agents are the ones who are coming to your open house.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, and the other thing too, that I would always, if you do this, you are really missing the boat if you don't ask each agent that comes through, do you have a buyer, you know, that would fit this house, and have you shown it? And if not, why?
Okay.
You know,
That's good.
Because you've got to understand, and you want them to be honest. Hey, be honest with me. If we're overpriced, let me go.
Right.
That's the one thing I hate about feedback. I always tell our agents, the worst thing you can do on feedback is when all the buyers agents go out there and say, good price, good condition, good location. Well, why isn't it selling if it's good price, good condition, good location?
Right.
They're basically telling you your average price, average condition. We found something better. Okay. And that's tough to have that conversation with the seller, because they're going, well, wait, everybody says it's good. Why aren't we getting offers? Well, we're not the best. And, you know, we always want to make sure we're the best in line, not second or third.
Yeah. Anytime
we're selling other people's properties.
And I know we're running out of time here, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But I know anytime that I have done an agent or helped out with an agent open house, the listing agent, that's really what they're looking for is the feedback, the honest feedback, because they know if they hear the same thing, it's like, okay, so they're not going to be, all right, who will give me an honest answer? Maybe one person will actually be honest that goes through there and tells them the truth about it. And that's the only feedback that they're able to take from it, instead of everybody, all the agents that come in actually being honest about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it can be so powerful. And when you gather that information, now it's not you telling the seller, hey, look, I've had some of the top agents, you know, have come to see, and this is what they're telling me, guys, you know, and it comes so much easier, because otherwise there's sometimes, you know, sellers going to look, yeah, the only reason you're doing this, you just want to get your commission. You know, you're not really working hard. So it's
Joe,
that extra step.
Joe, before you kind of do the wrap up, I'm going to put this out there. Dave, I know you guys are hiring, you know, looking for top agents, looking for people. If you're an agent out there and you're watching this video and you don't have a support team, a management team that is taking time to put training in for you, teach you ways of doing it, reach out to Dave and Century 21. Ashley over there is a wonderful recruiter. She would love to take your calls and talk with you. I would highly recommend talking with them. They have all kinds of trainings. They do great jobs partnering and networking with everybody. So give Century 21 Mike Bowman out in Grapevine, give them a chance to earn you as one of their real estate agents, because I know they'll give you their time to make you stronger.
Well, and I'll do one better, and not that Ashley's not great, but anybody from your group, I'll do a personal one-on-one with them.
Ah, there you go. I like that.
There you go.
Like that.
Well, it sounds like, Dave, you definitely invest in those that will invest in you as well to make a successful career. And I really thank you for coming on our show today. Appreciate all the insights you're able to give to our listeners. If there is any additional questions that any of you have for Dave, or you want to reach out to Dave to see about possibly, looking into being hired on with his firm, his agency, Dave, what would be the best way for people to get a hold of you or someone there in HR?
My email is dbowman@c21bowman.com. You can send me an email.
Okay.
You know what? For anybody listening to this, I very seldom do this except for my agents, but my direct line is 817-328-2555.
There you go.
Wow.
Fantastic. Wow. Put that
It took me 5 years to get that number, Joe.
Wow.
It took me 5 years.
Well, I had to test his cooking skill. I had to make sure Joe knew how to cook, because we like to give cookouts for our agents.
I love it. We got to do another one of those when the weather changes.
Absolutely.
Well, next week we are going to kick off a new series. We've just wrapped up our series on the NAR Settlement, which is great. I appreciate everyone that came on, special guest for that series. But next week, we're going to kick off a new series. We had such an amazing response from our listeners a couple months ago when we had Ashley Henderson on our show going over mortgages for investment properties. Joe and I decided to launch an entire series dedicated to, how to start building your investment property portfolio from step one and beyond. So be sure to tune in next week at our usual time, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Central, as we kick off that series. Want to thank everyone for listening in today's show. If you only caught part of the show, or you want to catch up on some of the past episodes, go to our YouTube channel at The Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button, because we are on a mission to get to 1,000 subscribers. Before closing things out, any last nuggets of advice or wisdom for our listeners, Joe?
I just want to say thank you to Dave again, and Joe, to you, because we found out that beginning the show when you're not there, it does not begin the right way. So.
Well, I am Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy with the beard is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week.
Mr.